The hedge branch scraped against my cheek. I didn't move, couldn't move. Through my kitchen window, I watched my son wrap my grandmother's teacups in newspaper. Each one a piece of history he was erasing. Each one a promise he was breaking. 3 in the morning. September air cold enough to see my breath. My knees ached from crouching in Mrs. Morrison's garden, but I'd stopped feeling the pain an hour ago. Now I only felt the burn in my chest, spreading like poison through my ribs. Dex laughed at something Rochelle said. The sound carried through the glass, clear and easy, like this was normal, like stealing from your mother was just another Tuesday night project. Hi, viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. I was 68 years old, hiding in the bushes behind my own house, watching my life get packed into boxes. The house Harold and I bought 32 years ago. The house where I'd raised Dex alone after his father left. The house they were planning to sell without asking me. I'd heard them 3 days ago, standing at my bedroom door, ice cube melting against my tongue, listening to my son say words that changed everything. Mom won't know. She trusts me with everything. He was right. I had trusted him. Trusted him with my spare key. Trusted him when he said the loans were temporary. Trusted him when he brought papers last week. Said they were just for emergencies, just smart planning. Power of attorney. I'd almost signed. Almost. Something stopped me. Maybe Harold's ghost. Maybe the way Rochelle's smile never reached her eyes. Maybe the part of me that noticed my mail arriving opened. My financial folder moved, my laptop doing things I didn't tell it to do. So I'd set a trap. Told Dex I was visiting Aunt Pauline in Vermont for a week. Aunt Pauline who'd been dead 3 years, but Dex didn't know that. He'd never called her, never visited, never cared enough to know. I'd driven to the bus station Sunday morning, made a show of it, waved to Imogene across the street, my neighbor who trimmed her roses and noticed everything. Bought a ticket to Boston, then sat in the station cafe for 2 hours drinking bad coffee, waiting. At noon, I drove to a budget motel 15 minutes from home. Paid cash. The clerk with purple hair barely looked at me. The room smelled like chemical pine and cigarettes that had soaked into the walls for decades. But it had a window facing the parking lot, and that's all I needed. I called Imogene, told her everything, every overheard word, every suspicion, every piece of the plan I'd figured out. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, the line went quiet for so long I thought she'd hung up. Imogene? I'm here. Her voice was different, hard. That boy of yours needs a lesson. She'd been watching my house all day. Called me at 9 this morning when Dex's car pulled into my driveway. Called again an hour later when they started loading boxes into a truck. My mother's china, the painting from my living room, the antique desk Harold proposed to me beside. That's when I'd driven back, parked 3 streets over, walked through the darkness like a criminal in my own neighborhood. Now Imogene crouched beside me in the shadows, her phone out, recording everything. The truck in my driveway. The boxes being loaded, the man with estate services printed on his shirt. There, she whispered, pointing. Through the window, Dex reached into his pocket, pulled something out. Even from here, I recognized it. My grandmother's bracelet, the one I'd planned to be buried in. He turned it over in his hands, examining it like merchandise. Then he slipped it into his jacket. My hands curled into fists. How much longer? I asked. They've been at it for 6 hours. Won't be much left soon. A light went on in my bedroom. Someone was still inside. A woman I didn't recognize, carrying a clipboard, moving from room to room like she owned the place. Estate appraiser, Imogene said. They're inventorying everything you own. The words hit me like ice water. This wasn't just theft. This was systematic, planned. They'd brought professionals. Rochelle appeared at my back door, phone pressed to her ear. I could see her mouth moving, couldn't hear the words, but I saw her smile, satisfied, victorious. We need to go, Imogene said, before they see us. But I couldn't move, couldn't look away, because Dex had just walked into my bedroom, the room where I'd cried myself to sleep after Harold died, where I still kept his reading glasses on the nightstand. Dex picked them up, looked at them, then dropped them in a trash bag. Harold's glasses, the last piece of him I had, gone. Something inside me cracked, not broke, just shifted, like ice forming over water. Margot, Imogene whispered urgently. We have to move, now. We crept back through the yards, through the darkness, until we reached her house. Inside, she made tea I didn't drink. We sat at her kitchen table and she showed me the videos she'd recorded. Clear footage of Dex and Rochelle removing my belongings, the estate appraiser documenting my possessions, the truck being loaded. "What are you going to do?" she asked. I stared at my reflection in her kitchen window. Old woman, gray hair, wrinkled hands, the kind of person people underestimated. Dismissed. Expected to be easy. They were wrong. "I'm going to make them pay," I said. "But not yet. Not until I have everything I need." Imogene nodded slowly. "Then we keep watching." I drove back to the motel at 4 in the morning, lay on the stained bedspread, staring at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Dex's face. The way he'd laughed. The way he'd thrown away Harold's glasses like trash. My phone buzzed at 7. Text from Dex. "Hope you're having a good time with Aunt Pauline, Mom. Love you." I stared at those words until they stopped looking like language. Just shapes on a screen. Lies in digital form. I didn't respond. Instead, I got up, showered in the motel's rust-stained bathroom, dressed in the same clothes I'd worn yesterday. Then I drove to the bank. The manager, Patricia Chen, had known me for 15 years. She smiled when I walked in. "Mrs. Brennan, how can I help you today?" "I need to make some changes to my accounts," I said. "Security changes." Her smile faltered. "Is everything all right?" "I'm just being careful. Can we talk in your office?" 20 minutes later, I walked out with new passwords on every account. New security questions. Alerts set up for any attempted access. And a call scheduled with the bank's fraud department for tomorrow. Next stop, my lawyer's office. James Whitmore had handled Harold's will 2 years ago. Good man, honest. The kind who actually read the fine print. He squeezed me in between appointments. "Margot, what brings you in?" I pulled out the documents Dex had tried to get me to sign. The power of attorney forms. "I need you to look at these." He put on his reading glasses, started flipping pages. His expression changed. "Did you sign these?" he asked. "No, but I almost did. My son brought them last week, said they were just precautionary." James set the papers down, looked at me over his glasses. "Margot, if you'd signed these, your son would have complete control over your finances, your property, your medical decisions. He could sell your house without your permission, access all your accounts, make any decision he wanted." "I know," I said quietly, "but because that's exactly what he's planning to do." I told him everything. He listened, taking notes, his jaw getting tighter with every sentence. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "What do you want to do?" "I want to protect myself. Legally. Completely. And I want documentation of everything he's done." "I can help with that." "But Margot, this is your son. Are you sure you want to go down this road?" I thought about Harold's glasses in a trash bag, about my mother's china being sold to strangers, about the retirement home they'd already picked out for me. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. James nodded. "All right, let's build a case." I spent 3 hours in his office. We drafted new documents, created a trust that Dex couldn't touch, set up safeguards that would make it impossible for anyone to take advantage of me again. James made calls to contacts in elder law, in estate protection, in fraud prevention. By the time I left, I had armor. Legal armor that would protect everything I owned, but I still needed one more thing: evidence that would hold up in court. I drove back to the motel, called Imogene. "I need cameras," I said. "Inside my house, recording everything." "I know someone," she said. "My nephew. He installs security systems." "Can you get inside your house tomorrow?" "They think I'm in Vermont until Friday. I have 4 more days." "That's enough time." The next day, Tuesday, I watched my house from Imogene's window. Dex's car showed up at 10. They stayed for 2 hours, left with more boxes. When they drove away, I waited 30 minutes. Then I used my key and went inside. My house felt different. Emptier, echoey. Things were missing. The painting from the hallway, the rug in the living room, my mother's silverware from the dining room hutch. I walked through each room, documenting what they'd taken. My hands shook holding the phone, taking pictures. This was my home, my life, and they were dismantling it piece by piece. Imogene's nephew, Marcus, arrived at 2. Young man, maybe 30, with kind eyes and a toolbox. He didn't ask questions, just listened to what I needed and got to work. He installed tiny cameras in 5 rooms: kitchen, living room, bedroom, hallway, garage. So small you wouldn't notice them unless you knew where to look. Connected to an app on my phone. I could watch everything in real time. You'll have sound too, Marcus said. Whatever they say, whatever they do, it's all recorded. Cloud storage, can't be erased or tampered with. Thank you. He packed up his tools, paused at the door. My grandmother went through something similar, he said. Her daughter and son-in-law. They got away with it because she was too scared to fight back. Don't be too scared, Ms. Brennan. After he left, I sat in Harold's chair, the worn leather one he'd loved. I pulled out my phone, opened the camera app. 5 screens showed different angles of my house. I was ready. That night at the motel, I couldn't sleep again. I kept checking the app. Nothing. My house stayed dark and empty. But Wednesday morning at 8, my phone buzzed. Motion detected in the kitchen. I opened the app. Dex and Rochelle had let themselves in. They moved through my house like they owned it. Rochelle opened my refrigerator, helped herself to orange juice straight from the container. Dex, my kitchen table, feet up on the chair I'd refinished last summer. Then a third person arrived. The bald man with the clipboard, the estate appraiser. Let's start upstairs, Rochelle said. They walked through my bedroom. The appraiser took photos, made notes, picked up the jewelry box on my dresser, the one Harold gave me for our 25th anniversary. This is real mahogany, he said. Should fetch a good price. Perfect, Rochelle said. The more we get, the better. Dex opened my closet, started pulling out clothes. What are you doing? Rochelle asked. Getting rid of her old lady stuff. We'll need the space to stage the room when we list the house. Old lady stuff. My clothes. The dresses I'd worn to church, to Harold's funeral, to Dex's wedding. Rochelle laughed. Good thinking. Donation pile? Trash is easier. They filled garbage bags with my clothes. 30 years of my life stuffed into black plastic like it meant nothing. I sat on that motel bed, watching my phone, tears running down my face. Not sad tears, angry tears, the kind that burned. They spent 4 hours in my house. The appraiser documented everything. Rochelle took more photos with her phone. Dex made calls to furniture buyers, antique dealers, estate sale companies. Friday, he said into the phone. Yeah, the owner's out of town, doesn't know yet. We have power of attorney, all legal. But he didn't have power of attorney. I'd never signed. That was fraud, criminal fraud. I recorded every word, every lie. Every crime they committed in my home. When they finally left at noon, I had 3 hours of video. Clear footage of them stealing, lying, planning. More than enough for the police. More than enough for a lawsuit. More than enough to destroy them. But I didn't call the police, not yet. Because I'd learned something about revenge. Real revenge wasn't fast. It wasn't hot anger and immediate confrontation. Real revenge was cold, patient. It waited for the perfect moment to strike. And I hadn't reached that moment yet. I called James Whitmore. I have video, I said. Hours of it, everything we need. Send it to me. I'll review it with our fraud investigator. There's more. They're claiming to have power of attorney. They're using that to make deals with buyers. Silence on the line. Then, that's a felony, Margot. Multiple felonies. Fraud, forgery, elder abuse, theft. Good, I said. I want them to commit every crime they're planning. I want them to go as far as they possibly can. Then I want to take everything. You sound different, James said. I am different. That night, I had a visitor at the motel. Imogen knocked on my door at 9, carrying a casserole dish. You need to eat, she said, pushing past me into the room. You look terrible. We sat on the edge of the bed, eating chicken and rice that tasted like cardboard. Or maybe that was just my mouth. Everything tasted wrong lately. Marcus told me about the cameras, she said. Smart. I have everything now, every crime, every lie. So what's next? I set down my fork. I let them think they've won. I come home Friday, act confused and tired. They'll bring the papers again. Try to get me to sign, pressure me. And when they do, I sign. But not their papers, mine. The ones James prepared. That's when I spring the trap. Imogene smiled. Not a nice smile. The smile of someone who'd lived long enough to appreciate justice. I knew there was steel in you, she said. Thursday morning, Dex called my phone. I almost didn't answer, but I needed to play the part. Hi, honey. Mom, how's Vermont? How's Aunt Pauline? The lies came easier now. Good, she's good. We've been talking a lot about the future. That's great. That's really great. When are you coming home? Tomorrow afternoon. My bus gets in at 4. Want me to pick you up? Yes, I thought, pick me up. Pretend to care. Act like you haven't spent the week stealing everything I own. That would be nice, I said. Perfect. And Mom? Rochelle and I want to come over Friday night. Have that talk we mentioned about your security, your future. All right. We love you, Mom. The words made me sick. Love you too. I hung up, threw the phone on the bed, pressed my hands over my face. Imogene was right. I did look terrible. I hadn't slept more than 3 hours any night this week. Hadn't eaten much. The face in the motel mirror looked 10 years older than it had on Sunday. But I wasn't stopping now. Friday morning, I checked out of the motel. The purple-haired clerk asked if everything was okay. Fine, I said, everything's fine. I drove to the bus station, bought a coffee I didn't drink, sat on a bench, waited until 3:30, then I called Dex. I'm here, at the station. On my way, Mom. He pulled up 20 minutes later, got out, hugged me. He smelled like cologne I didn't recognize. Expensive cologne. Bought with my money, probably. How was the trip? He asked, loading my suitcase into his trunk. Tiring. Pauline's doing well, but the bus ride is hard at my age. You should fly next time. More comfortable. He drove me home. Talked about work, about Rochelle, about their plans for the holidays. Normal conversation, easy. Like he hadn't spent the week dismantling my life. When we pulled into my driveway, I noticed the truck was gone. The evidence cleaned up. They'd been careful, but not careful enough. You okay, Mom? You seem quiet. Just tired, I said. Long week. Get some rest. We'll come by tonight around 7. Just to talk, nothing stressful. I smiled. That sounds nice. Inside, my house looked almost normal. They'd been smart. Put some things back, rearranged furniture to hide gaps. But I noticed what was missing. My mother's china cabinet was emptier. The painting in the hallway was gone. My jewelry box had been rifled through. I walked through each room. The cameras Marcus installed were invisible. Even knowing where they were, I could barely spot them. I pulled out my phone, opened the app. All 5 cameras showed green, recording, ready. At 6:30, I showered, changed into comfortable clothes, made tea, sat at my kitchen table and waited. Dex and Rochelle arrived at 7 exactly. Rochelle carried a folder, legal-sized, thick. Hey, Mom, Dex kissed my cheek. Feeling better? A little. We sat in my living room. Rochelle pulled papers from the folder, set them on my coffee table. We've been thinking a lot about your situation, she said. This house is a lot of work. The expenses keep adding up. Property taxes, maintenance. It's not sustainable. We're worried about you, Dex added. Living alone. What if something happens? What if you fall? What if you get sick? I'm fine, I said. Now you are. But what about in 5 years, 10 years? Rochelle slid the papers closer. We found a wonderful community in Westbrook. Assisted living, beautiful facility. They have activities, nurses, everything you'd need. I don't need assisted living. Not now, Dex said gently. but it's about planning ahead, being smart. Rochelle opened the folder wider. And to pay for it, we'd sell the house. The market's really strong right now. We could get great value. This is my home. We know. And we're not saying you have to decide today, but we brought some papers. Just for your protection. Power of attorney. So if anything happens, we can help you. Make sure your wishes are followed. The same papers from last week. The ones James had reviewed. The ones that would give them everything. I picked them up, pretended to read. This says you'd control my bank accounts. Only if necessary, Dex said. Only if you couldn't make decisions yourself. And my property. For your protection, Mom. We'd never do anything you didn't want. I looked at my son. Really looked at him. Tried to find the little boy I'd raised. The one who'd climbed into my lap when he had nightmares. The one who'd made me Mother's Day cards from construction paper. He was gone. Or maybe he'd never existed. Maybe I'd created a version of him in my head. A better version. A kinder version. This was who he really was. Okay, I said. They both froze. Okay? Rochelle repeated. You're right. I should plan ahead. I should be smart. I set the papers down. But I have some papers too. My lawyer helped me prepare them just to make sure everything's clear. Dex's expression shifted. Just slightly. Your lawyer? James Whitmore, Harold's estate attorney. I asked him to review your documents. He suggested some additions for my protection. I pulled out my phone, opened a different folder. Not the camera app, the one James had sent me yesterday. Legal documents that would change everything. What kind of additions? Rochelle's voice had an edge now. Just standard things, limits on what you can sell, requirements for my approval on major decisions, an independent trustee to oversee everything. That's not necessary, Dex started. And also, I continued, my voice steady, documentation of all my assets, current inventory, just so we all know what we're protecting. The room went quiet. Dex and Rochelle looked at each other. Some silent communication passed between them. Mom, Dex said carefully, we're trying to help you. You don't need to make this complicated. I'm not making it complicated. I'm making it clear. Rochelle stood up. We should go, let you think about this. We can talk more next week. Actually, I said, I think we should talk now. I pulled out my phone again. This time, I opened the camera app, 5 screens, 5 different angles of my house. I turned the phone so they could see. Rochelle went pale. What is that? Dex asked. Security cameras. I had them installed Tuesday. While you were busy emptying my house. The color drained from Dex's face. I don't know what you're talking about. Stop! My voice came out cold, hard. I know everything. I heard you 3 weeks ago planning this. I heard you talk about selling my house, putting me in a home, splitting the money 3 ways. I heard every word. Mom, you're confused. I'm not confused. I pretended to visit Aunt Pauline. Aunt Pauline, who's been dead for 3 years, by the way. You didn't even know that, did you? You've never cared enough to know. Rochelle moved toward the door. Don't, I said. You'll want to hear this. I have video of everything you did this week. Every item you stole. Every lie you told to buyers. Every crime you committed in my home. Hours of footage. All saved to the cloud. All time-stamped. All backed up on drives you can't access. Dex sank back onto the couch. We were just helping. You were stealing. And you claim to have power of attorney you don't actually have. That's fraud. That's forgery. That's elder abuse. My lawyer says those are felonies. Multiple felonies. The room went silent, except for the ticking of Harold's old clock on the mantel. The clock they hadn't managed to steal yet. What do you want? Rochelle asked quietly. I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the street where I'd lived for 32 years. I want you to understand something, I said. I spent my whole life being nice, being understanding, putting everyone else first. I worked double shifts for 18 years so Dex could have what other kids had. I paid for your wedding, Rochelle. $20,000 I didn't really have. I gave you loans I knew you'd never repay. I trusted you with everything. I turned to face them. And you saw all of that, all of my kindness, all of my love as weakness, as an opportunity. You thought I was too old, too stupid, too trusting to notice what you were doing. We're sorry, Dex started. No, you're not. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. Rochelle's hands were shaking. What are you going to do? I walked to the door, opened it. Get out of my house, both of you, and don't come back. Mom, I'm not your mom anymore. That relationship ended when you decided to steal from me, when you threw your father's glasses in the trash like they were nothing, when you laughed in my kitchen while you packed up my life. Dex's eyes filled with tears, fake tears, the same ones he'd used when he wanted something as a kid. They didn't work anymore. Please, he said. We can fix this. We can make it right. Get out. They left. Rochelle practically ran to the car. Dex paused at the door. I love you, he said. No, you don't. You love my money. You love what I can give you. But you've never loved me. Not really. I closed the door, locked it, stood there listening to their car pull away. Then I walked to Harold's chair, sat down, and for the first time in a week, I felt like I could breathe. My phone rang. James Whitmore. Did it work? He asked. Perfectly. And you got them admitting to the fraud? I smiled. Every word, recorded, clear as day. Good, then we move forward. I'll file the restraining order tomorrow. Then we'll meet with the police. With this much evidence, they'll have to press charges. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet house. It felt different now. Lighter somehow. Like something heavy had been lifted away. Imogene knocked on my door an hour later. Well, she asked. It's done. She smiled, that same not nice smile. Good, you did the right thing. I know. We sat together drinking tea, not talking much. Some things didn't need words. Over the next 3 days, I took my life back piece by piece. Saturday morning, I filed for the restraining order. James handled the paperwork. Dex and Rochelle were prohibited from coming within 500 feet of my house or contacting me in any way. Monday, we met with Detective Sarah Klein. She was younger than I expected. Maybe 40, but her eyes were sharp, focused. She listened to everything, watched the videos, read the transcripts. Mrs. Brennan, she said when we finished, I've worked elder abuse cases for 12 years. I've never seen documentation this thorough. This is enough for criminal charges, multiple counts. How long will it take? The DA will need to review everything, build the case. But with this evidence, I'd say they'll issue arrest warrants within 2 weeks. And my belongings? The things they stole? We'll get those back. All of it. She was right. 2 weeks later, police showed up at Dex and Rochelle's condo with a warrant. Found boxes of my things in their storage unit. My mother's china, the painting, my jewelry, Harold's reading glasses pulled from their trash. They were arrested, both of them, charged with theft, fraud, forgery, and elder abuse. The arraignment happened 3 weeks after I'd kicked them out of my house. I sat in the courtroom with James beside me, watched Dex and Rochelle stand before the judge. They both pleaded not guilty. Their lawyer, some slick young man in an expensive suit, tried to argue it was a misunderstanding, a family dispute, claimed they had my best interests at heart. The judge wasn't buying it. I've reviewed the evidence, she said. Video footage, recorded conversations, financial records. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is systematic exploitation of a vulnerable adult. Bail is set at $50,000 each. Dex's face went white. He couldn't afford that. Not without my money. They spent 3 days in jail before Rochelle's parents bailed them out. The trial took 6 months to prepare. 6 months of meetings with lawyers, prosecutors, investigators. 6 months of reliving every moment, every betrayal, every lie. But I didn't break. I'd already broken that night in the bushes, watching my son throw away my husband's glasses. I'd shattered. Then I'd reformed, harder, stronger. The trial lasted 2 weeks. The prosecutor was a woman named Angela Torres, sharp, fierce. She presented every piece of evidence, every video, every recording, every lie Dex and Rochelle had told. Their lawyer tried to paint me as a confused old woman, said I'd misunderstood their intentions, said they were just trying to help, but Angela destroyed that argument. She showed the jury footage of them stealing, audio of them calling me the old lady, proof they'd claimed to have power of attorney they never received. The jury deliberated for 4 hours, guilty on all counts. Dex got 18 months in prison. Rochelle got 15. Both were ordered to pay restitution, every penny they'd stolen, plus damages. The estate appraiser lost his license. The buyers who'd been working with Dex faced their own charges for receiving stolen property. I sat in that courtroom and watched my son led away in handcuffs. He looked at me once, mouthed the words, "I'm sorry." I didn't respond, because some things can't be fixed with apologies. Some betrayals cut too deep. Some trust, once broken, stays broken forever. After the trial, life became quiet again. Imogene and I still had coffee once a week. Marcus installed an upgraded security system, free of charge, he insisted. James helped me set up a trust that would protect everything I owned, with Imogene named as trustee if anything happened to me. I redecorated the rooms Dex and Rochelle had emptied, bought new furniture, new art, made the house feel like mine again instead of a museum of memories. My mother's china went back in the cabinet, Harold's glasses returned to his nightstand. The bracelet I'd planned to be buried in sat in my jewelry box where it belonged. 6 months after the trial, I got a letter. From Dex, written from prison. I held it for a long time, turned it over in my hands, considered throwing it away unread, but curiosity won. Inside, he'd written 3 pages, apologies, explanations, promises to change. He said Rochelle had pushed him into it, said he'd been weak, said he loved me and always had. I read it once, then I put it in the shredder, because those were just more lies, more manipulation, more of the same patterns he'd used his entire life. I was done falling for it. A year after everything started, on a Tuesday morning in September, I made myself coffee and sat in Harold's chair. My house was quiet, peaceful, mine. I thought about the woman I'd been a year ago, the one who'd stood at her bedroom door with an ice cube melting against her tongue, the one who'd believed family meant everything, the one who'd said yes to every request because she couldn't say no. She was gone. In her place was someone different, someone who understood that kindness without boundaries is just weakness waiting to be exploited. Someone who knew that love isn't supposed to hurt this much. Someone who'd learned that sometimes the people who should protect you are the ones you need protection from. I was 69 now. I lived alone in my house on Maple Ridge. I had friends like Imogene who actually cared. I had protections in place, I had peace, and I had something else. Something I'd never had before. Power. Not the kind that comes from money or property, the kind that comes from knowing your worth, from standing up when it matters, from refusing to be small just because it makes other people comfortable. Dex got out of prison after 14 months. Good behavior, they said. He tried to call, I blocked his number. He tried to show up at my door. The restraining order was still active. Police escorted him away. Rochelle divorced him while he was inside, took what little they had left and moved to Arizona. I heard she remarried, some investment banker with money. I hoped he was smarter than Dex had been. I hoped he knew who he'd married. 2 years after the trial, I sold my house. Not because anyone made me, because I wanted to, because Harold was gone and Dex was gone, and the memories had become more weight than comfort. I bought a smaller place across town, modern, efficient, mine from the ground up, with no ghosts in the corners. Imogene moved too. Bought a condo 2 blocks from my new house. We saw each other even more often now. Book club on Tuesdays, garden club on Thursdays, coffee whenever we felt like it. She was family, real family. The kind that shows up when things get hard instead of when they want something. I started volunteering at a legal aid clinic, helping other seniors who were dealing with financial abuse. Elder exploitation. Family members who saw them as paychecks instead of people. I told them my story, showed them how I'd fought back, taught them to document everything. To trust their instincts, to understand that being nice doesn't mean being a victim. Some of them reminded me of who I used to be: scared, confused, ashamed that their own children had betrayed them. I told them what I wish someone had told me. It's not your fault. You didn't fail as a parent. You raised an adult who made choices, bad choices, criminal choices. That's on them, not you. And I told them the truth that took me too long to learn. Love shouldn't cost you everything. Real love lifts you up. Fake love tears you down and tells you it's for your own good. 3 years after everything, I got another letter. This one from Dex's lawyer. He wanted to know if we could meet, talk, see if there was any path to reconciliation. I didn't shred this one. I wrote back. No, I said. There isn't. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ashes. I was 71 now. I had gray hair and wrinkles and arthritis that flared up when it rained. I had a smaller house and a quieter life and a bank account I controlled completely. I had friendships based on respect instead of obligation. I had boundaries that protected me. I had a past that had taught me what I was capable of, and I had peace, real peace. The kind that comes from knowing you survived something that was supposed to break you and came out stronger on the other side. One Saturday morning, I was working in my garden when Imogen walked over. Coffee? She asked. Always. We sat on my patio, drank coffee that was too strong, watched birds fight over the feeder I'd hung last week. Do you ever regret it? She asked. Going after Dex the way you did? I thought about it, really thought. No, I said, I regret trusting him so long. I regret ignoring the warning signs. I regret not protecting myself sooner. But fighting back, making him face consequences, no. I'll never regret that. Good, she said. Because you saved yourself. Not many people have the strength to do that. Maybe she was right. Maybe it took strength. Or maybe it just took reaching the point where the alternative, staying quiet, staying small, staying a victim, became unbearable. Either way, I'd made my choice, and I'd live with it just fine. If you've ever been treated like you're invisible, called worthless, or had to fight for what's yours, you still have power. To anyone who feels like their own family has turned on them, you're not alone, and you're not crazy for feeling betrayed. Trust your instincts. What lesson hit you hardest from this story? And if you were in Margot's shoes, what would you have done? Don't stop here. Click the next video on your screen right now and watch another story from our channel. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and share your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next one.